Hey guys, what's up? This is Leaf from Complexity, and you're watching the Esports historian Thorin's YouTube channel.
When it comes to energy formulas, there is no equal. Gamersops is the best, and I drink a portion every day. Lemonade or cherry limesicle, if you're wondering. As far as the pros, it tastes great, lasts a long time, doesn't have a nasty crash, doesn't taste all chemically. You can fit a tub of 60 or 100 portions just in your pocket. Try that with some of the other brands, by the way. Oh, and you can get 10% off an order of anything on the store. Be sure to add some free samples to try the flavours with the code Thorin, THORIN, at gamersubs.gg. Now, as well as purchasing Gamersubs, another thing you can do if you're interested in find out what I think about upcoming events that are going on, match predictions, little pieces of trivia, anecdotes, you can always check out my pinned tweet and my Twitter, /x.com. For all games, this concept applies. I could have just made it like double lift, Z-Woo, Scump or something. I guess he didn't even play COD. I don't even follow COD. I don't know who would it. Simp. There you go. It's actually never played. Also sounds like Scump, doesn't it? It's actually a top player though. Because basically these concepts all apply, but I used popular CS pros because they're the ones that somehow have managed, because they're not controlled by Riot and the whole LCS system, they've managed to sort of like get the iron fist and really, like, I think actually abuse their power and act in a way that's actually quite outrageous, and then constantly cause like their own org to look bad and over the most petty things, while themselves walking away with hundreds of thousands of dollars, while the orgs lose millions running their teams. So I've never been a fan of that. By the way, also, the last few years at least, CS was perceived to be a game that's way harder to make a profit in. Well, why did I even say profit? Fuck all people make profit unless they're tiny. So, and especially unless they've taken, I mean, anyone who's taken VC is probably never going to make profit, by the way, at least at this point in time. So it's more like they don't even get good revenue, hence why you don't see giant orgs from the world like Gen G, T1 in this game. You just don't. It's not, by the way, it's not that they just don't have career players, blah, blah, blah. That's not the reason why. Those teams have had other orgs in the past, other squads in the past that were outside their career, etc. You also have huge orgs in other games that just stay in Rocket League or just stay in Dota 2 or stay in League of Legends. I see a lot of complaining across the years, it pretty much never stops, from pros about many topics in the industry, but especially about topics to do with their org. By the way, behind the scenes, even more so. Even though, remember, some of these people are 19 years old. They've never even had a real job. Some of them didn't even finish school. All they've done is sit in front of a PC and shoot people in the head with the crosshair or click on minions, etc. Or hit a football with a car. I'm glad I don't follow those bollocks esports. So whether it be salaries, I'm in contract prison, which means I signed a contract a long term on thinking it gave me security, and then they decided not to play me. It's like, what the hell? I get paid, but I'm stuck and I'm trapped. This is unfair. As though they're just supposed to let you go for free, right? MSL, JKS, etc. Listen, I like these people, but I'll call you out when I call you out. Sticker money splits. We just get everything, all of it, even though it's basically your logo, and we have player stickers anyway. John C. Riley. What events they're told to attend. How dare you say I should play PA? This is outrageous. Oh, can I also have those 5-figure salary per month, even though you lose money on me being a... Thank you, yeah, but I won't play where you want to play. It's my team, not yours. How about who the org signs to play with them or coach them? They actually seem to think they should have a say in all these things. And not only that, they're acting like that thing where modern day idiots go, anything that you want doing, you just sort of make it sound like it should be a human right. It's like, that's not how human rights work, you dumb fuck. So there's an implication that pros are the only people, or the people in almost all cases, mistreated in the industry. But I'll tell you what, when it comes to finance, that isn't the case. So look, yes, there are obviously not only famous, but behind the scenes cases of pros being mistreated, being tricked, being lied to, being ignorant of legal matters, being coerced into doing things, but then being legally responsible, sometimes even being physically intimidated. I have sympathy for those pros, and I always have. But I tell you what, there's some other pros that are very self-entitled, are incredibly rich, have basically actually bilked other people, and in a way that they then still portray themselves as the victim, which I find gross, because when it comes to finances, that's my problem. They are ignoring, due to either simply not knowing or just not even being curious enough to ask or find out, or just have the good grace to shut the fuck up when you know what you're talking about, the financial realities of this industry, which are the only reason that they can have the job they have and their salary. Now, obviously, some people would still have a job, but it'd be a way smaller job with a way smaller scene, and they'd have a much, much smaller salary. Just ask people in CS 1.6. You think people like Forrest are as good at the game relative to then as the best players now? Spoiler, there's people who play in like the 40th best team, or maybe even 70th best team in CS, who make the same salary Forrest did in his prime in 1.6. So one of the problems I've always had is that notion that they just don't get it. They don't get the financial side of it. And even worse, they don't even seem curious. They just go, oh, who cares? So I have to explain for a second the industry model financially in esports very simply, but it'll let you understand what's going on. There are basically two categories we're going to make, and there's two entities in each. So 4 entities in total, kids, in the sort of ecosystem or life cycle, or I guess it would be like money cycle of esports here. So in theory, since fans don't pay money directly to team orgs, players, or tournament organisers generally, the money comes from fans and goes to the game developer, and they get loads of money. So game developer is number one people who make the money, the most money of everyone in esports, and they're in category money makers. All they do is just make money. It's basically a license to print money. It's fucking incredible to be able to have a game like Counter-Strike or League of Legends and have skins and all that jazz. So the game dev makes insane amounts of money, hence why actually the best people to pressure is them to give money to team orgs, which then can be given to players, or to TOs, which then can be given to players through team orgs and players, etc., etc., etc. Then you have pro players. Oh yeah, pro players is the other entity that makes all the money. Haven't you noticed now there's no more entities I'm having making the money in this scenario, by the way? So notice how there's some very conspicuous people that pay the pro players that aren't in this category. So pro players make way more money than they generate in revenue. By the way, I said revenue, not profit. Look it up if you want to know the difference. Revenue just means the money you made. Profit means did you actually make more money than all the costs? Now, they get paid what they get paid, not because of how sick they are at the game. I mean, in a very relative indirect sense, yes, because you're going to hire someone, so you'll try to hire the better player. But they can't, by Zero being amazing, isn't why salaries can be up to 50k a month. That's not why. He might be the one who gets the 50k if it's possible, but why was it possible? Because they get paid due to their market value, which is what others will pay for you when there's demand for you. More than one person will pay, so they bid against each other. And the deals that their org owners can make to get the money to pay for them and to pay the salaries. That's what gets them paid. But they're ignoring that and acting like how good they are at the game is what makes all these orgs money. In fact, some of them even think that's real, that their orgs making millions off them and they're being ripped off just getting hundreds of thousands. That's how delusional some of these fuckers are. They think we're already like a professional sport and we're not at all. They think it's like UFC and they're being mistreated. By the way, I often give this example. If you're going to go with sort of like a workers of the world unite, rise up, like commie Marxist type take, well, I'll very simply break it down. You know that famous thing of like, seize the means of production. What means of production? In this scenario, think about it, right? You're not a girl making matchsticks in a factory in Victorian England where the factory owner makes loads of money and he pays you barely anything. You have all health conditions, etc. In this scenario, you make most of the money and the factory owner loses money by employing you. But in the long run, he's gambling that one day the industry of matches in this case makes loads of money and then he'll be positioned with a really good factory and really good employees and then he'll make his money. And in this case, it's not even his money. He's actually like leveraging money from other people who believe in that dream that one day it'll be worth it. So actually in that scenario, it would be entirely unreasonable for you to be a prick and to rise up because you're the one making all the fucking money. So game devs make it, pro players make it. By the way, that's why, just as a quick aside, there can be help from other people. Like you can get subsidies or cuts from the game dev if it's Riot Games, or the tournament organizer. Obviously Valve gives the stickers. Tournament organizer can get partnership deals, although hilariously, I mean as in like with the leagues, although hilariously every fan asks for those to go away because they're fucking clueless. Like, can we just have all the things I like and everything is big and everyone get paid as much, but take away the minor things that I don't like that actually allow us to pay those people? Those are gross and you should all lose all your money, but then also build a new team look and sign all the best players in the world. So my favourite pleb statement always, it's actually what even fucking idiots like Jacob Wolf say. They'll go like, this player isn't worth that money. Newsflash, nobody is. None of the major esports games are these players worth any of the money they're making. The top 100 pros in CS or LOL, and I'm being generous saying that, because that would only be the top fucking like 50 teams, wouldn't it? Aren't worth that money in the sense that they don't generate anywhere close to the revenue their salaries cost, and revenue isn't profit. Everyone is by definition overpaid, and massively so in the major esports games. So if you're talking about the concept in terms of overpaid, of running a business without debt and making a profit, like you imagine in a simplistic way an economy would work, then it wouldn't work, the model of esports. It's actually terrible. It's failing. But luckily, that's not the way sports teams work. That's not actually the way modern business works. In modern business, what you do is you take on debt, you leverage what you have, your assets, your team, your spots, your players, so you leverage it, and therefore because think about it, you'd have a competitive disadvantage otherwise if you ran it otherwise. So what happens is you even think of Real Madrid, or there are giant teams doing this. This is something you do to be on the cutting edge and spend as much as you can and try and be as big as you can and just hope the sport keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it justifies it. The competitive disadvantage to just run as a normal business a la ENCE is you're very rarely going to be able to sign the biggest players. Hence why, by the way, ENCE had one lineup ever that actually made it to the final of a major and was in position to potentially win, even though they weren't. They were a massive underdog. And that would have just been off the talent of the players and the scouting. It wouldn't have been because they'd signed the best people. That's why ENCE has no majors. Meanwhile, massive orgs like Vitality, Cloud9, even people like Astralis who've leveraged themselves, these orgs can actually win a major, even though they're spending more and they're losing money. Oh, what's going on? Like I say, it's sort of a waiting game, isn't it? Then you have the money givers. These are the two entities that just give money and lose money. You have tournament organisers, hence why ESL was running at loss for years and years and years. And if they weren't sold to Saudis, they tried to be sold before that by MTG to a different company. You have the team orgs then, the people that the players want to be equal to, and want to have say over, and sometimes want to have more say than, and think of ripping them off. Team orgs lose millions of dollars per year on squads like Counter-Strike and League of Legends if they're the bigger orgs. Precisely due to the salaries. The salaries to the players are what are the major cost of those budgets, no matter the level of sponsorship. The giantest orgs in the world, again, are leveraging. So it's not even if they have the best sponsors, that doesn't matter. But if you don't have the traditional sports model for a franchise, sponsorship's tiny. I think it's like 10 or 20% of the revenue you need. You have to have like ticket sales, merchandising, TV, broadcast deals, etc., like franchise fees, / the money you get as a rev cut from being in a league like the NHL, the NBA, etc. So no matter the level, it doesn't matter if it's G2. And by the way, whenever they do these news stories, they're actually profitable. They always just fudge the numbers or hide like the franchise fee or something. They just find some way through another company to put the costs over there and make it seem like this one's succeeding. A bit like how TSM used to pretend they were succeeding, but they actually meant their whole guides website and all the stuff on the side. Actually, obviously the esports side was losing money, wasn't it? So it doesn't matter if you're G2 or Team Liquid or Cloud9 or Vitality or Na'Vi. As a general rule, they all run at a loss, millions of dollars of loss. And remember, these are corporate entities. So look, it's not like the owner loses all his money or the CEO's losing all his money. It isn't his money. He's losing the money of the investors and the money he's bringing in through revenue. Hence why if you actually wanted to get a slot in Flashpoint, LEC, LCS, Overwatch League, Call of Duty League, it was worth it in the sense there was loads of people wanting to give you the money to be an investor to get you a slot like that. And so you were gambling their money. Now, certainly, if you gamble and you lose and they don't like it, they might never do business with you again. There's that kind of a concern. But it wasn't your money. You weren't losing. Like, you obviously give yourself a big salary from the org and you still make six figures or $1 million maybe even. You have a Lamborghini. Yeah, that can all be the case. But the orgs themselves are what's losing the money when these players get the salary. If you go read financial reports, you'll see that these giant orgs, you can go see Astralis' reports over the years. You can go and see these different teams in countries where they have to publish the reports. In League of Legends, I did an expose last year about the LCS economics. And that league has been franchised since 2018. And this was up to last year. I calculated this. I went and got all the sources. I got all the information. Teams last year were receiving the highest franchise fee they ever had. Each of them got 2.25 million. Before that, it was much lower, going back in the years, going back to more like $1 million, $1.5 million or something. But salaries were over 100% of that over that same time span of like whatever, 6 years or whatever it was. I heard the lowest in a single year was 120% of the total revenue. And others said there were years it was 200%, including all costs, living costs, travel costs, etc. So the total amount of revenue that these teams made in terms of from the tournament organizer, in this case, Riot Games, to run their teams, over those 6 years, or whatever it was something like $132 million. And then I looked it up, and the salaries for players over that time span was $170 million. And by the way, when I calculate the 132 mil, that was if you just did like the 2.25. It'd actually be less than that. It might even be like close to, I don't know, 120, 110. So you're talking about a gap of like 40, 38 to 70 million that you're missing across like 10 teams over that 6 year span. Look at the costs, guys. They're just losing millions of dollars, and that's just in League of Legends. So why do I bring all of this up? Why did I explain didactically how the industry works in terms of like the money flow, etc.? Because players have a lot of influence over their orgs, not least because of what they can do in public, because they can say, I don't want to play, etc. And also they can say, I want to go elsewhere, can't I? I'm in demand, I'm a top player, so I want to go elsewhere, so do what I want, make me happy. And orgs then incentivise to compete, to make their offers better and better, and that could mean giving them more power or more say. That could be a way you could give them something instead of money, isn't it? So players start talking about wanting equality or an equal say. I'll get to that dreaded, cursed word equality soon. Because they think their play is what brings these salaries in, by the way. And some of them think the org's making millions off them. By the way, I'll just put this out there. If Simple played for Complexity or Big Clan, it would be impossible for him to make the salary and the money he makes for Na'Vi. Also, by the way, how would they be able to sign the teammates he needs to be in the kind of team that Na'Vi was when they were at their peak? They want a say in all kinds of things, seemingly everything. But the owners are the ones taking the cost, losing the money. They're the ones who have skin in the game. When they do something wrong, it actually has a consequence to them. And to a player, it doesn't to the same degree. If they fuck up their player signings and they have to rebuild, if they fuck up attending the right events, then their org loses money, might even go bankrupt. No player ever does. The player just makes money. He just stacks money. He doesn't lose money from any of these things or what he has his say in any of these things. They can demand that players join. Pro players have done this. I want players to join my team. Sign this guy, sign this guy, sign this guy. Like Nico when he was in FaZe, right? And then when the team fucked up, partly because of some of the people you said to join, then you just go, well, it's been real, guys. I want to win, so I'm going to leave to G2. They've got more money and they're probably going to build a better org. See ya. And then the FaZe class has just been nothing for a year while you're off in G2 and really competitive. That's what happens when players don't have any sort of like responsibility tied to the power they have and the influence they have and the say that they have. They can just leave a whole mess behind them. And by the way, I don't give that to Nico to wreck him. I'm just giving it as an example of someone who did that, but maybe didn't think about how it worked and then went elsewhere. Oh, an obvious example would be Fern, MIBR, right? So I heard a story from inside, it's mega well sourced, that in the last year of Fern falling all and being on MIBR, they only had enormous salaries for how bad the team was, by the way. But I heard they had like bonuses factored in that only activated when certain things happened in terms of accomplishment, and they didn't reach them. But the org thought, just to be nice to them, we'll just give them the bonus anyway. And despite being given the bonus, I believe Fur went on stream and was saying something mental. Like he was either implying they hadn't paid him some money they owed him. No, the other way around a bit. They paid you money they didn't owe you. And then he was turning fans against them on like a Portuguese stream. He's also saying some other really wild shit. Even though I think he's a legendary player, one of the best of all time. That was some bullshit, mate. Like when you actually consider what was really going on in that org, that was disgraceful. And so you paid these people a king's ransom. They fucked you over, said you owed them money, left and turned all your fans against you, and then you have to just rebuild it 60 years going through the Brazilian scene again. So if these players want more say, I mean, a way you could do it is you could actually tie their interests to the health of the org, right? So you could give them equity in the org. Now, there might be a way around that. We could, I don't know, put it away for some years or they can't access it. I don't know. The problem is, obviously, in most of the games, if you give them equity, you're in trouble from the tournament organizer / game dev immediately. Valve or Riot Games, right? They're going to go, you know how to do that, or must declare it. So it's going to get tricky, right? But I think of giant orgs like G2 and TL, like, yeah, these are the sorts where that would probably be a good thing in the future because people know these are the biggest orgs. Maybe Vitality, Na'Vi, depending on what region you're from, etc. That way, you don't have to just give them directly more salary, but you can give them more say, but also tie what they do to whether or not their equity is going to be worth anything. Because one day, by the way, it could be worth megabucks, couldn't it? Think of those NHL or NFL franchises that you could have bought for a few $100 million, like in the late 90s, and now they're worth billions of dollars. And also, consider this. It's not even about just when you sign one team and how expensive they are. What if you rebuild 2 or 3 times over a few years like G2 and Team Liquid have? People are being ridiculous, acting like they're just playing Football Manager. And by the way, even in that game, you have a fucking money and salary cap and all that jazz, don't you? It doesn't just grow on trees. Where do you think it all comes from when you keep rebuilding? Look at Fnatic in League of Legends now. The team's actually smurfing when you consider they're sort of min-maxing with that roster. That isn't an old Fnatic roster with like the best players with the top salary. They're working with some scraps and making it to the finals. Here's the thing: if you're a pro player, you are not an equal. You do not bring equal value. You do not take equal responsibility. You are an employee. Yeah, you're a massive, marketable, very highly paid employee, just like LeBron is an employee of the Lakers, and Mbappe is an employee of Real Madrid, and Conor McDavid is an employee of the Edmonton Oilers. They don't get to call the shots. And by the way, at least those guys make mega bucks in revenue, not necessarily profit. So consider this. Yeah, some of you can get this say and power and influence, but just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, or that it'll be good for you or others in the long run. And by the way, what if it is good for you in the short term and really bad for everyone else in the long run? Is that the industry you want to be in? Is that the mark you want to leave on esports? That you're the parasite who just came in, played a few vidya and left with millions of dollars while all people who are trying to make it an industry are just fucked? Then on that whole concept of equality, here's a little razor for you to apply in life. Think about power dynamics between people in relationships, in society, in politics. Here's a little trick for you. When someone says, I just want to be treated equally, that actually implies they know they're inferior and that they're not equal. They're asking for something that they're not actually to be granted. They aren't owed. It's not something you're obliged to give them. Because if they thought they were better, because let's be real, people aren't ever equal, are they? You can only be equal by being the exact same thing, the same entity, the same level of class. And even then you're better and worse and got more and got less. So if you actually thought you were superior or worth more or had more value, you wouldn't offer equality. You'd say, hey, I'm the A side of the card, like Floyd Mayweather did. And you'd get all the money. Well, you already do, by the way, in esports, but you get even more of it. And then you determine what the other guy gets, and you'd have all the say. That's the thing. Kindness and can only come from power, from strength. If someone's weak, they don't have a choice to be merciful to you, to give to you, and etc., etc., etc. Now, beyond like a personal relationship between you and your mum or a beggar or something. We're talking about, that's now, how can the beggar be kind to you and give to you? He has less than you. Now, it's certainly plausible he can be stupid and do it, but you get the point. So no one's obliged to do any of this. And it's actually don't use terminology like, I want to be equal. Just say something like, I'd like more say in this. And then, by the way, people can push back and go, why should you have it? Didn't you leave a team last year? Didn't you ask for someone to be benched and cause drama? What if you're like the Stown and Yabby, by the way, and you sort of actually ended up fucking over your org in the sense that they kicked like their main person, then you left anyway, and yeah, they made millions after that, and they've sort of recovered, but have they? They're not really as good anymore. And now Astralis has a really good team, right? Or at least on the level almost of their old heroic team. So you've sort of just played God with your whole franchise for years, and they've done a great job building up. They've done a decent job financially, and they'd scouted really well and coached really well. And what did they get out of it? Well, you just played God with them last second, like they were just fucking G.I. Joe soldiers in a toy set. And then, I'm bored of playing with you now. See ya. I'm going to play with Buzz Lightyear now. So these pro players, whether it's Double Lift with his bozo fucking thing of the LCS walkout, whether it's people like Ziwu getting a bazillion-year contract and all the money in China, whether it's fucking, again, you'd have to pick people from other games, wouldn't you? I don't know, fucking, I guess it wouldn't be Miracle in Dota 2, one of the best players of all time. So this concept is nonsense. And these people, in doing so, it's either a self-report, you're like a narcissist who's entitled and just rude, or you just don't understand finances and how the economics of the industry works. So maybe educate yourself. Everyone needs a support network. And mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Scrominati, who in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Hadjou, Mac Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Tooorin, and you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel? Do you want teasers, find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are? Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Scluminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.